What is going on, my people? Welcome back to the channel for another album review. I'm your boy Nassim the Dream, and if you're new to the channel, just go right on ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the bell as well to always keep notified on my newest content. And today I'll be reviewing this new ODESZA album, The Last Goodbye. This is the fourth commercial LP from Washington indie-tronic duo ODESZA. This is following their collab record releasing as their debut to form this new alter ego, joining with Australian electronic artist Golden Features Bronson. But previous to this comes the 2017 record, not only to get such a incredibly positive response from not only the fans but the Academy, but also gave ODESZA the defining point in their style of electronic music that essentially put them miles upon miles ahead of other EDM artists. That is A Moment Apart. What A Moment Apart was not only this huge breakout record for the duo, but in my opinion a miracle in electronic music with great hits such as Higher Ground, Line of Sight, and the title track A Moment Apart. I think it's also important to note that this wasn't the group's only successful record, making a somewhat interesting debut with Summer's Gone to an immense improvement with their sophomore LP In Return. These two records alone gave heavy promise from the group and eventually achieved exactly that with A Moment Apart. All that mentioned, I gave some pretty high hopes for this next chapter in ODESZA's discog, which inevitably created this very high bar of expectations and ultimately could have resulted in less excitement for the record from just taking in the singles for a spin. But now that this brand new LP, The Last Goodbye, has finally arrived, I can finally give a thorough approach to the group's new music. Already being gently guided and escorted through the album with these melancholy piano chords, which is basically in a way an opening interlude to the whole record, the way this whole thing plays out into Wide Awake featuring Charlie Houston. And I think I remember enjoying this track when it was released, but not exactly recalling my exact thoughts, but I do think the majority of the song follows with a pretty decent sound selection, because I'm really liking its little Northern Lights image that it paints in the scene of the song, sets up as well with Charlie's gentle and gorgeous singing in these passages. But so far I'm not really finding the appeal in what ODESZA's piecing together in this track. Front to back, to me, there just could have been something different or rethought onto this first chorus, as to me it just sounds a bit choppy. One of the initial singles released for the LP, Love Letter, is a solid and ambient fusion that includes vocals from indie soul group The Knocks. This was another track part of the singles bundle that I was just a bit hot and cold with at certain moments. I find the group vocals and instrumentation from the verse all the way to the pre-chorus that clearly have a captivating and genuine attraction, but there's just some arrangement choices that really don't trigger that same reaction from me but put me closer to the neutral ones. However, I do recall one of the instant favorites from the singles batch, that being the track Behind the Sun. Already I'm fascinated with the indigenous themes on the vocal sampling, all glimmering underneath pulsating synths and epic drum lines. But then I finally get that explosive result I wanted to be brought onto a chorus from ODESZA from a song. The collision into the bass gives this feel that generates something so cool and so vibrant it's hard not to be memorized by. One of the things I was certainly hoping from this record is that we would get another set of unknown artists that bring an immense amount of talent to the table underneath the great craftsmanship under ODESZA's production. And yeah, I'd certainly say we definitely get some more of that with this album. Izzy Bizu is one that I recall that shines so bright on this upbeat dance pop cut classic to ODESZA's signature that is the song Forgive Me. But as I was a little bit hesitant in my response, there are a couple of features on here that didn't really resonate with me personally. Better Now featuring MARO kinda just rubs off as a bland structured dance pop track that over time just gets more stale by the bar. I also didn't really find that much breakout performance from Bettye LaVette on the title track either. I want to point out for this track, I did find the instrumentals that have such a great and sweet organic sound quality to them, but sometimes I'm just not really in sync with the singing to the instrumentation. On the track Equal featuring Låpsley, this is another one where I thought it really could have been more thought out and more done well with this vocalist, because I really do think Låpsley is a very talented vocalist, but to me these verses fall in a bit flat because when entering these fat video game like synthesizers and dribbling chop vocals on the chorus, it feels rather forced than it does natural. It just doesn't really have that much of a tie-in with the chemistry to the sound quality to me. And towards the last laps of this project is where there is plenty of more consistency on the record, though I would say the level and enjoyment and quality to the record stay at a pretty average rate from here. You do feel the come down really start with the last three tracks as it falls deeper into this ambient bed of dance music that altogether isn't terrible. It's just not the tune that really resonates that great ODESZA signature that separates most ambient electronic groups from this one. But I will say that the album did adjust its footing, at least to its balance on the last leg of Light of Day, because now we're finally settled with this way that the group is trying to give on this full-on meditation sequence that just floating on with more of those fat brassy synth raps, ambient pads, and lovely pianos, which to me has some of the best traits and chemistries compared to most of the tracks on here. But ultimately, I don't exactly feel that same flair with this record compared to what A Moment Apart left with me thinking about the group's progress. Although I wouldn't say that ODESZA wipes the entire floor with the first steps of this creating something that hits so artistically potent as A Moment Apart, I definitely hear the distinctive differences between these two LPs that do make this album its own, which of course is something that the artist should always want to go for. That you should never ever really want to create a duplicate album, because then at that point it just feels a washed of a kind of a tone or just sound quality to it. And there are plenty of tricks and sound design choices and songwriting abilities that really do work in several ways on this album. I just can't say that I was as impressed with what was constructed with A Moment Apart. And with this newest chapter, I'm gonna have to give ODESZA's The Last Goodbye a 68%. Guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, go and like, share, comment down below, and if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. Down in the description, you see all the separate tracklist ratings I have for the album, more videos, and also the links to my social media accounts so you can keep with me on the daily, and I'm gonna catch you in the next one.
Please forgive me for the mess I made.